Welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Ribal Rizq, MBA and BAL Director at MUBS. أهلا وسهلا فيكم. I'd like to welcome you to our workshop entitled Research, Writing and Publishing, organized by the MBA department at the International School of Business at MUBS. حاب أذكركم إنه at the end of this workshop, you'll receive a certificate of attendance بينبعت على إيميلاتكم أكيد. So first of all, let me hand over to our Dean, Dr. André Azouri, Dean of the International School of Business at MUBS. تفضل دكتور أندري.
Thank you, Dr. Ribal. Thank you للpanelists كلهم. Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. سؤال هيك basic question. What is research and why we do research? كمان as simple said بدي أقول الريسيرش بمفهومي الشخصي ومفهوم العالم البحثي is creating knowledge. When we say research, that means we're creating knowledge. حضرة الزملاء الأعزاء وحضرة التلاميذ الكرام، بدي أقول إنه العمل الجامعي الأكاديمي هو مقسوم على طول لقسمين، وهالقسمين هن مكملين لبعضهم، ما فينا نشيل واحد ونشتغل بواحد. العمل الجامعي الأكاديمي يتألف من قسمين مثل القلب والعقل. عندنا القسم الأول هو القسم التعليمي اللي بنقصد فيه النولج، والقسم الثاني هو القسم البحثي اللي نحن بنخلق منه النولج. حكما أعضاء الجسم بالإنسان الأساسية القلب والعقل بيمثلوا إذا بدكم الأعضاء والأقسام الأساسية بالتعليم الجامعي الأكاديمي اللي هن التعليم والبحث. أكيد ما في عقل بيقدر يشتغل من دون قلب، وما في قلب بيقدر يخفق من دون عقل. لهالسبب السؤال البديهي اللي بنطرحه على نفسنا، وأنا بعرف تماماً إنه كتير من الأساتذة أو كتير من الطلاب عندهم هيدا السؤال اللي بيطرحوه: كيف بدنا نبلش؟ وين بدنا نبلش؟ عندنا نقص نحن بالمنهجية بالميثودز تبعنا. سؤال: from where to begin and where is our final destination? It's very important to get results. انتبهوا نركز على كلمة results from experiment. But the most important is the process in getting that results. اليوم نحن كل الويبينار تبعنا هيدا لنفسر كيف هو منهجية عمل الشخص الأكاديمي البحثي يلي يسعى ليقدر يخلق علم جديد وفكرة جديدة. بهالمحل بدي أقول قبل ما أنهي الكلام للبانلست، بدي أقول كريستوف كولومبوس بيقول: You can never cross the ocean until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. So please، بعد في أساتذة وبعد في تلاميذ عندهم خوف من الدخول بالعمل البحثي، بالعكس خليها تكون حافز، خليها تكون تشجيع لكم لتقدروا تنتقلوا من محل وحلو كتير التعليم لمحل تاني وهو أهم العمل البحثي. وأنا بدي أتشكر الجميع. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. André. Thank you very much. So welcome again to our workshop. Let me first tell you that this workshop was planned as part of the students' academic development plan, and considering the importance of writing skills in the majority of students' assignments and final projects. Secondly, it was pre-arranged as part of MUBS strategic plan, especially that our university is seeking international accreditations such as EVALAG and world rankings such as THE and QS. So for all the above reasons, enhancing research is a vital goal for all of us. هلا شو هن objectives of this workshop? At the end of this workshop, you'll be able to develop writing skills and confidence in writing manuscripts, understand editorial processes, and know what editors look for in papers, learn best practices for submitting a paper, and be able to reduce instances of ambiguity and miscommunication in your writing. Finally, you'll have an appreciation of the protocols and ethics of scientific publication, and you'll increase your publication rates and access to journals of your choice. So now I'm pleased to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Latifa Atiye, who will be covering the research writing and publishing skills required to make a good research paper. Dr. Atiye holds a PhD from the University of Miguel Hernández del Elche in Spain. She has more than 12 years of academic and professional experience in higher education. During the past 5 years, she was the chair of the marketing department at MUBS, in addition to being the Erasmus Mundus and Erasmus Plus coordinator of international exchange projects. As well, Dr. Atiye had the opportunity to deliver several trainings and workshops in management, marketing, and effective communication, and published several research articles in peer-reviewed journals, as well as in local and international conferences. So Dr. Atiye, please تفضلي, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. You're all missed for all students who are attending. It's really an honor today to be delivering this session on how to write and publish research papers. And I hope by the end of this session, we'll be more motivated to start delivering research projects and hopefully publish in peer-reviewed journals. Thank you, Dr. Andre, for the introduction, and thank you, Dr. Ribal, as well, for organizing this great workshop. Allow me, please, to share my PowerPoint. Okay. Are you being able to see my screen now?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Dr.
Okay. So the main objective of this workshop, or the first session of this workshop, is how to get your article published. And that's mainly one of the most challenging tasks of being an academic and university instructor. And that comes from a personal experience. And there's some kind of fear that gets along. So again, hopefully by the end of this session, we'll be able to overcome this fear. So let's go over the points to be covered during this session. What's research? Practical tips before we start writing. What makes a good quality research paper? What is a general paper structure? The process of publishing, editorial, and reviewing. And finally, we're going to shed some light on some of the ethical issues that are related to publishing research. But before we begin, please let me or allow me to tell you a little story about someone that I'm sure most of you know. That's Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest scientists of our world, the creator of the black hole theory, which is followed by publishing a book on the Big Bang theory and the history and origin of time, and that sold over 15 million copies all around the world. So this man is pretty famous. That was in 1971 when he came up with the theory of the black holes. And that was an expansion of a theory that was created by. However, this man, some 30 years later, in 2004, he came publicly and dramatically, he said, hey guys, I was wrong about this theory of the black hole. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to refute it and I'm going to change it. So what's the point behind this? I hate physics. I never succeeded a physics class in school, but you know, the point here is research is a cycle. It never ends. Sometimes we're wrong. We need other people to continue the research to know more and more. And as Dr. Azuri said, research is sharing knowledge and knowing more about this universe. And in business specifically, since we are under the ISB, the International School of Business, research is very important for managers and decision makers in organizations, which help them solve their problems and help them make better decisions. So let's take a look about a research cycle. From where do we start? We always start by observation of a certain phenomenon or identification of a certain problem in organizations. Like, for example, some manager would say, hey, my sales are going down, so that's a problem. What can we do about it? And then it's followed really by a research design. Of course, after identifying a research question that's clear, and that's very important from the beginning. We need a clear research question, because if you do not have a clear research question, we will have a very wrong result at the end. So first, clarify what do you want from this research. And then, of course, follows the research design, whether we want to go for quantitative analysis or quantitative data or qualitative data. Measurement of the variables as well is very important. We have to make the decision of how we're going to measure these variables, how we're going to collect data, whether face-to-face or through social media. This is very common right now. Later on in the ethical part, we're going to shed some light on some of the problems that are related to collecting data on social media, for example. Analysis and interpretation, which is very important. And I can say clearly that this is the most important step of the whole research. The analysis and findings, let's say, we call it often findings. And finally, the conclusion and recommendations. However, as we can see, this doesn't end at the conclusions, because in the conclusions, as was Stephen Hawking wrong, we can be wrong, we can revisit our theories, and we can discover knowledge as long as we are living. So why do we need, as faculty, graduate students, or anybody who's working in the academic field, why do we need to do research? Why do we need to conduct and publish research? One, because it's an opportunity really to say something important. It's another opportunity to share knowledge and share our work or achievement, get advanced in our careers, because most of the universities, the promotion policy is based on the number of publications per year, for example, or per certain time in this institution. So academic people and faculty instructors would get promoted from, let's say, lecturer to assistant professor to associate professor, and finally to a professor based on the number of publications. And a new theory or a debate. It's as well a chance to get educated more on certain topics, to get into high impact journals. And by high impact journals, we mean the number of citations of the journal. So how many times this specific journal was cited. The more the citations, the higher the impact of the journal. Okay, so caution here, what not to publish? One, when we do not have any scientific interest, or when the work is really out of date, like outdated. So what's the point in publishing outdated information? We cannot as well duplicate previously published work or have incorrect or unacceptable conclusions. So this is for the faculty and graduate students. Before we start, don't panic. As I said, it's a fear really, and we faced that recently with Dr. Nasreen Hilal, my colleague, the chair of management at MUBS. We were about to set on a journey to discover the feeling of publishing some work. And we were afraid, we were scared to death. And we were scared mostly because we didn't know how to start. So how do we start? And this is, answering most of your questions. How do we start research? How can we arrive to this critical point at our academic careers and having a beautiful piece of academic paper? So first, we have to think about the reason why we want to publish our work. Is it some topic that's new, that's sexy, that's interesting, that's attractive, that we want to share or talk about? I mean, if we do not love the work we're doing, we cannot arrive nowhere. So the first point here, the topic should be new and interesting to the person per se, to the author. Have we provided some solutions, or are we capable of providing some solutions to some problems that we are facing? And are we ready to publish? Because, you know, publishing process is a lengthy process that's costly and that requires lots of time and lots of effort, lots of commitment, and so on. The first step really is always selecting the journal. How do we select a journal? What is a journal? A journal بالعربي هي مجلة علمية. So it's like this scientific magazine where peer-reviewed articles are published. And by peer-reviewed articles, we mean articles that have been reviewed by other authors and other academics. And they agreed that this paper has something new, some originality. The problem that's tackled in this paper provides insight into solving certain problems. There's a new theory discussed, and so on. So how do we select a journal that's suitable and that matches, you know, the objectives of our paper? And I'm going to tell you one easy solution. I think, in my opinion, my personal opinion, the easiest way to find a suitable journal is simply by looking at the references that we've used in the paper. Where did they publish, in which journal? If we use these articles, that means the topics or the topic that I'm tackling is, you know, similar to the topic tackled in these papers, and most likely the journal would accept it, or it would be suitable for the journal. What's the it's and what's the journal's impact factor? As I said, the higher the impact factor, the better, because it means it has a high number of citations. Another caution here, this is very, very, very important for those who do not know already. Do not your article to more than one journal at a time. This is very important. You decide on one journal and then you submit and you wait for the answer, for the results. So do not submit to multiple journals. This is very, very important. As per Paul Haddad, this is the editor of Journal of Chromatography, he says, problems appear in publications that are more frequent are the following. These are 5 points. One, when we submit a paper to a journal that's out of scope, or that's not, you know, following the guide for authors. Let me show you, for example, an example of a journal. Can you see now my page, International Journal of Organizational Leadership?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is an example of a peer-reviewed journal. It's called International Journal of Organizational Leadership. I've already signed up, so I can log in with my username and password here. So let's say I logged in. Okay, it doesn't matter if we log in or not. Let's say, for example, on the left side here, you can find very important factors in the journal and points that we have to take into consideration. There's, of course, the part where we can submit our manuscript. A manuscript is a paper. It's the same term. It's the same expression. Manuscript is a paper. Here, there are other options to browse. For example, the current issue of the journal, by issue, by subject, by keyword index, by author index, etc. Why is this important? This is important mainly because it gives us an idea of the shape and format of the paper that's published in this journal. Of course, we should have a similar paper to that in terms of formatting and structure and so on. Another journal information here, for example, we can, or it's very important if we select this journal, for example, to learn about it a lot, about the journal, the impact factor of the journal, the aims and scope, which should match our aim. It should match the aim of our paper. Now, why is the editorial board important? The editorial board is important because you might wanna, after you submit and after you see the comments by reviewers, you might want to consult with them about a certain issue with your paper. So talking to the editorial board sometimes is important, and knowing who the editorial board is. Sometimes we can argue with the editorial board after the reviews, and we can change their minds sometimes. The ethical considerations of the publication, is very important. Maybe there is some kind of non-disclosure agreement that we have to, for example, the paper. We're coming to that later on in the ethical section. As well, there are information, for example, on how to write an abstract, related links, information about the process of the peer review, and so on. But the most important point here, if you do not want to waste time on this during the workshop, is this one, the guide for authors. Here we can see, for example, the process of, or the guide of writing the paper. If we click on it, we can find information, for example, on which referencing style they like, this journal, which referencing style. The most common referencing style is APA, but sometimes you can see journals requesting other forms. Other important criteria, for example, if they want the introduction and literature review combined, because there are some journals which want that, or some other journals, they want them separated, the introduction from the literature review. Under the guide for authors as well, we can find, for example, what format, what font they want, what size of font they want, the paragraph spacing. They go into these details. These are very important, including information about the authors, the corresponding author, and the other authors, their emails, and so on. We can find other information related, for example, to formatting the tables and figures, appendices, and so on. So one advice here, review very well this part. Review very well the guide for authors, because this might be one of the reasons why your paper is rejected. One of the most common reasons, actually. Okay, back to our PowerPoint. So we were in the failure to format the paper according to the guide for authors. Other points which sometimes become problems when we want to publish include inadequate response to reviewers when they send their comments, because after we send the paper to a journal, the reviewers, sometimes they are 3, sometimes they are 5, they would send us an email with their comments and feedback. So we have to follow these comments very well, correct them very well, and resubmit within the deadline given. Inadequate standard of English. And here, of course, we can, use the help of English instructors, friends who are good in English, if we are not capable of writing in our own tone. And finally, resubmission of rejected manuscripts without revision. Of course, that's a recipe for failure, for death. A word about our wording, the way we write, the wording of our sentences. I always advise my students and the graduate research methods that avoid the personal tone. I, we, me, mine, our, your, you. And there's a good reason behind that, because since research should be utterly and completely objective, if we include these tones, it will, it will hint some subjectivity, and this is bad. This is very bad for research. This is, this is some kind of bias, or shows unprofessionalism and so on. So avoid these tones, be objective no matter what the result is, even if our theory is refuted, like Stephen Hawking did. Just be clear, just be honest with your results. Be precise and concise. If your sentence can be delivered in 5 words, perfect. There's no need for creativity here in writing. This is not an essay, it's scientific writing. Deliver the idea in the most simple, precise, and concise way. And of course, if clarity can be achieved, as I said, in N words, never use N+1. Avoid long sentences, because the longer the sentence, always the more mistakes, on a generally. Okay, before we start writing, at the pre-writing stages, we have also a number of points to pay attention to. As I said, whenever we have a clear research problem or question, maybe more than one question, maybe we have 3 questions, 4 questions, doesn't matter really. The clearer the problem or the questions, the better, because it clarifies your way, it clarifies your road ahead. And it's all interrelated. You will see the introduction is related to the literature review. Let me go backwards. The literature review is related to the introduction. The methodology is related to the literature review. The results are related to the methodology and the literature review and the introduction. And the conclusion, summing up, coming out with a certain conclusion, recommending future research, and stating the limitations. So in the pre-writing stages, again, a clarified problem would make it easy. A number of articles we've read. This is what I tell my students. Before you start writing, just take your time to read. Read as much as you can in literature that's related to your topic. Read as much as you can, take your time. This one, in my opinion, should be the longest period. Take your time, read the literature. Third, search databases. And here I have to hint to our e-library at MUBS that's called EBSCOhost. I'm going to show you the EBSCOhost. Okay, if you log into the UMS at MUBS, the University Management System, the UMS, there's a small icon called e-library. Just click on it, it will take you to this page. On this page, you can choose whatever databases you want. What is a database? A database is a hub for journals. So this is where you can find peer-reviewed journals. So I will select all and I will continue. Oh, I mean, I have a problem with that. Okay, it seems there's a problem with that. So this is my UMS, for example, and this is the library. EBSCOhost. I'm going to choose, for example, 1 or 2 databases. I'm going to try to log in. Okay, now we have a search box where we can put keywords. So I will try to put leadership. This is a variable as a keyword. If you separate your keywords with an and, it will make research results better. It will give you more or better results. So let's say leadership and crisis management. The reason why I chose crisis management is that because we said it's always better to research topics which are hot, updated. So choosing a topic not right now, I think it would be nice to relate business variables to the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, let me search this. So as you can see, I separated my keywords. This is a keyword because the more you specify your keywords, the better the result. So this is why we call it in research a variable or a construct because it's unmeasurable. So I separated with an and. It will give a better result. Okay, so EBSCOhost will give me a list of articles which are, published in peer-reviewed journals. If you look at the first one, leveraging culture and leadership in crisis management. Okay, so this is what we call the title of the paper. This is the title. Okay, here we have the author. This is one single author, Raka Badouri. Okay, the one in italics here, this is the title of the journal. So this paper was published in the European Journal of Training and Development. It's pretty new, so it's good. We need always to look for up-to-date references. So this is 2019. This is the volume number, and this is the issue number, and followed by the pages. All of these information are very important when we are writing our references. So as you can see, EBSCOhost is a good option to find good results for all MUBS faculty and students. You have this great opportunity to access a large number of, databases and articles. Otherwise, you would have to pay for. So this is nice. And again, another good option that would be Scholar Google. I use it often, but sometimes one of the problems is that you cannot access because you have to pay for it. So I will again put the keywords here in the search box. Okay, so again, I have a multiple of results. I will access it always from the right side, always from the link. Okay, again, we have all of the information that's required. And what's nice about it, what I really like about it, is that it shows you how many times this paper was cited. So this was cited by 24. This is very, very little, but it's new. So it was published in 2013, and it would be nice to use it. And another option that I like about the Scholar Google is that when you click on this one here, it gives you the way you can cite. So it gives you citations according to MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, and Vancouver styles. So it gives you the citations. Later on in my presentation, I'll be showing you as well that one of the most common problems with publishing is the reference list at the end. This is where the reviewers always find problems, and they would tell you correct this and correct that and write the references in the right style. Okay, enough for that. Going back to our PowerPoint. So we were talking about the databases, and we've seen EBSCOhost, which is a good e-library source, and Scholar Google. Before we write as well, we have to note that we cannot, and this is important, we cannot use the information that is found in the introduction and literature review section of other authors, because it would be plagiarism. We can use otherwise the information that's included in the findings and conclusions, because this is the, the original information that these authors came up with. And I can cite these authors without being accused of plagiarism. I will show you later on what do I mean by that. Identify a gap, or otherwise, why are you doing research? If you are researching something that's common and that's already found in literature, there's no point in that. So the advice here, always find the gap. What is a gap? Gap is a topic that's undercovered, understudied, a topic that's debateful, a topic that other authors did not agree on. These are all considered gaps, which justify why we're doing research. It justifies the point behind our So why are we publishing? Someone is raising hand. I prefer to hold the Q&A session after we finish, please. Jawad.
Dr. Latifa, we have lots of questions in the chat and in the Q&A room. So yes, like you said, I think it would be preferable to keep it to the end, to the 10 last minutes. What do you think?
Okay, I prefer that, yes. Okay. So let them write them down aside, and we'll revisit that after we finish the session. Okay, sorry for that. Okay. Yeah, and as well, good topic would be a trend. I think, as I said before, the COVID-19 crisis right now is a hot topic, and it's a trend. It's trendy in research. If you now just write COVID-19 and the EBSCO host, or in Elsevier, or in any of these databases and journals, you will find many articles that are being published now. The advice here, if you have information at hand, do not get late at publishing, because if you get late in publishing, other people would publish it. If you have a paper that's done already and you want to submit it as fast as you can, because it's a race really in hot topics and in current trends. Is data available for the type of research that I want to do? And that was, that was one of our discussions with Mr. Kamal this morning regarding a research topic. It's very important to see if the data is available. Or for example, if I want to do some interviews, are these people, are they here to interview? Are they available for interviews? Are they available for completing the survey or not? So this is as well very important, especially at the sampling stage and at the data collection stage. And finally, check the current list of academic journals and their trend. It's always a good idea to take a look at the journal and see what topics are good to talk about. Okay, this is the general structure of a research paper. I'm saying it's general, but I'm not saying that everybody follows the same structure. Again, follow the guide for authors that's found in the journal page, always. But this is general. I mean, in general, it's common. We have the title of the paper, we have the authors, the author who contributes mostly to the content of the paper comes first. So the first author is the author who contributed mostly to the paper content. The abstract follows, which is a summary of the paper and gives you an idea. It's like an advertisement of the paper. Keywords, that helps when we want to find this paper later on in searching. And the main text. And for the main text, we like to use the IMRAD abbreviation, which goes for introduction, methods, results, and discussion. And after the discussions and conclusions comes the acknowledgement, where we thank certain people who helped us during our research endeavor. The list of references, which I said is very important, and this is where we commonly make lots of mistakes. And supplementary material, sometimes it's called appendices, and these are additional information that if we put them into the paper, it would distract the reader. But if the reader wants to know more about a certain aspect, for example, if they want to see how the survey looked like, or the consent form we talked about in ethics, we put them in appendices. So this is additional information that should not be included in the body of the paper, because it would distract the reader from the main point of the paper, and it would be considered jargon. We put it as an appendix so that people who would want to know more, they can visit these. Okay, another advice here, if you want to start writing, do not start writing in this form, in this order. My students will be angry right now. Do not start with introduction, literature, review. No. Work backwards. Why? Why writing backwards is sometimes more beneficial? Because if we start with the results of the survey and figures and tables, okay, then we can describe our methods better and the results and the discussion. After the discussion, we can conclude And later on, we can write the introduction. Sorry, guys, sorry, students, but this is better if we want to publish. If you want to submit to a journal. Each section has a different purpose. We're going to look at each section now quickly. Let's start with the title. The title is your appearance, okay? It's your beauty. It's an opportunity to attract, okay? So for girls, it's the makeup, yeah? Idea understood? Okay, the title should not, again, distract people from the main point of the paper. So it should match the objective of the paper. It should be informative and concise, avoiding jargon and abbreviations, because abbreviations come in, they distract us. Some journals will not accept a title that's a question. So Camera have to look at the journal, what they need. As I said before, it should be sexy and attractive, because it's the first impression about the paper, and the first impressions, they stay long in our heads. So that's why it should be attractive. Now the abstract. The abstract, I like to look at it as an advertisement, as the one we see here. So it's like a billboard, really. Its objective is to stand alone. Like if I read the abstract, I know everything about the paper. This is where the reader would decide whether to go read the paper or not. And some papers are sold and it gets us money. So it would make people, for example, register in this journal and pay money. So this is very important. This is your advertisement. And it should not be too long or too short. It should really summarize the main points of the paper. Generally, maximum number of words would be 300, generally. But again, go for the guide for authors. So the abstract should continue one sentence about the introduction, one sentence about your past research or literature, one sentence about your methodology, one sentence about your findings, and one sentence about your conclusion. That's it, summarizing the paper in few words, 250 to 300 words. Keywords follow the abstract always. And these words I've used now, just seconds before, to look for a paper on leadership and crisis management. These are called keywords. These are very important. Again, abbreviations are to be avoided unless it's an abbreviation that's, that's established in the field. Like everybody in business knows what a SWOT is. So SWOT is good. Or in science, everybody knows what a DNA is. Other abbreviations, should be avoided. The first section of the paper is the introduction. And this is where we convince our readers about our work, and we describe clearly the problem. We introduce the main publications that we've been relying on in this piece of introduction. And we only put the references that are related to our topic. And as I say to students, it should be like an upside down pyramid. By that, I mean, it should start from the general and it should end with a specific research problem or question. I know as well that some, as I know that journals differ from one to another, I know for sure that some of the American journals, they prefer that the hypotheses of your research come by the end of the literature review. And on the other hand, the British journals, they would prefer, and Cardiff Metropolitan University as well, they prefer to put the hypotheses by the end of the introduction. So again, when you are in doubt, just check the guide for authors and it will tell you what to do. The literature review comes next. As I said, in some journals, the introduction and the literature review are combined. In other journals, they are separated. Either way, the literature review is where we review past research. Whenever I borrow information from external sources or from other authors, I should cite. We open a parentheses, we put the author's last name, followed by a comma, followed by the year of publication. This is to avoid plagiarism or copy pasting from the internet or stealing other people's work. And two, to give credit to the authors who've done this work before. This is giving credit. In the literature review as well, there's another very important objective, which is describing our variables or getting to know more about our variables, or getting to know other theories that we can use to explain our variables. To make it easier to read, it's always better to separate your variables or your paragraphs with titles and subtitles. This would make it, easier to read and to follow a logical style, so that you do not lose the main idea of your research. And one very, very, very effective point or tool to use, and that comes from a personal experience in my PhD, is summarizing all of your literature in one table, and including the reference, the aim of the paper, the method, the country, the sample size, and the main findings. This is very useful for summarizing the literature and following the literature, because I might need it in the methodology. How can I need my literature in the methodology? Because in the methodology chapter, this is where I describe my methods, right? I describe the method that I want to use in order to test my hypothesis. Great. So, الhypotheses all افتراضيات. Okay, so I want to know whether they are true, or I want to reject them. So, the methodology, I would look for ways, as I said, to prove these hypotheses or reject them. And here we can either follow an inductive style or a deductive style. So, and this depends really on the nature of the problem under study. For example, if we are exploring something new that's not being studied very much before, where there are no clear theories on it, okay, I use inductive. And whenever I'm studying something that has many theories before, like motivation, so employee motivation, I can use Maslow hierarchy of needs. I can use Herzberg's theory. I can use X and Y theory. I can use intrinsic versus extrinsic. There are many theories to use. So that means there are previous research on the topic that has clear theories I can use in order to come up with my theories, with my hypotheses and test them. This is what we call deductive. So the deductive, as you can see in this slide clearly, we start from a theory. So I'm studying employee motivation at MUBS. I can start with Maslow hierarchy of needs. Because Maslow said in his theory, he proved this theory. It's criticized. Every theory on earth is criticized. Even Stephen Hawking's black hole theory was criticized. But I can use it as a foundation to come up with my hypotheses. And again, they are called hypotheses because they are not proven yet. So I start with Maslow hierarchy of needs, who said that there are main dimensions of motivation, starting with the physiological needs and ending with the self-actualization needs. I come up with my hypotheses. I test my hypothesis. How can I test a hypothesis? I can test it, or in business, I'm saying. I'm not saying in science. I'm talking about business. Maybe, perhaps, the best way to test a hypothesis is by a questionnaire. Why? Because a questionnaire can be formulated based on theories. So if I use Maslow hierarchy of needs to explain my variables, then the items I should use in my questionnaire should be based on Maslow hierarchy of needs. So I should be using items to measure the variables of Maslow. Where? In the methodology. What did I use? I used theories from my literature review. Why did I use a questionnaire? Because my research is deductive and it's based on a theory, on an already established theory. We test the questionnaire. Questionnaire, of course, is good because one, it allows us to generalize results because we can distribute it on a large number of participants. Two, a questionnaire is good because it gives me quantitative data. Quantitative data never lies. 1 + 1 is always equal to 2. And finally, questionnaire is easy to analyze because we have certain softwares such as SPSS and R and Stata. All of these would give us the results of the questionnaire, encoding the items and variables and quantifying them to come up with, you know, either rejecting or accepting the hypotheses that we have before. Now, if I'm exploring something new, where there are no clear theories on the topic, so my research would be exploratory, I would be using an inductive approach. And by inductive, I mean there are no established theories before. I have to start from observation. I must come up with a certain pattern to understand the phenomenon that I've observed before. And finally, by the end, I should come up with a theory that's testable and that's justified. That's inductive. Now, can I use questionnaires? Simply no. Why? Because in order, as I said, to formulate a questionnaire, I should have clear theories. Great. If there are no clear theories, how can I come up with the items in the questionnaire? I cannot. I must make an interview because interviews give us deep data. Interviews give us lots and lots of data that can be interpreted and not analyzed. Questionnaire results can be analyzed. Interview data cannot be analyzed. It can be only interpreted because we are analyzing words and not numbers. And here we have the risk of subjectivity. And here the analysis takes another form that Dr. Rafi will now give us an overview on. Okay, we've come up to the methodology section. Details, details, details. Include details. 1, about the method to be used, about the approach, inductive or deductive, about the sampling and how you chose it and why, the number of people or participants in the study, the location of the study or locale of the study, the time spent in the study from which month to which month of which year, how the questionnaire or the interview was conducted from A to Z. Were there any consent forms before? Did we take the permission of anybody to make the study? So we need complete descriptions of our methodology. And this is where mostly the reviewers of the paper would say, you didn't describe completely your methodology. Please provide more details. That's why we say details are very, very, very important. Then, after the methodology, let's say I distributed this questionnaire. I got the results. Okay, the results I must organize in tables that are easy to read and that are easy to understand. Every single data that's important to my study, I should show it in my paper. And I should make it like a story, okay, presenting the data in a simple and friendly way so that people will not get bored. I can say maybe this part of the paper that's the discussion or findings is the most critical one. Why? Because this is the butter. This is the top of the cake, the cherry on top. What did we find? Did we confirm our hypotheses? Did we reject them? Did we come up with did we come up with a model, with a theory? We compare our results to the literature review, because that's the point of the literature review, to know what other people said. So we have to compare our results here and the findings or discussion to what we've been including in the literature review. Other problems that we might face, sometimes we have statements that go beyond what the results can support, sudden introduction of a new idea by the end of the paper, that's totally inappropriate. For example, never include a picture or a table if you do not want to talk about it, and so on. We come again to wording and the language. This is one of my observations with the essays or with the research projects that I correct. whenever I'm talking about a fact or a hypothesis, I use the positive tense. However, if I'm talking about a study that's been done, you know, last year, or an experiment that I've done a month ago, I must use the past tense. Even the results of the experiment or the testing or the questionnaire should be described with the past tense. This is a simple recipe for writing with the correct tenses in a paper. The conclusions now, as I said, the conclusions are important as well. What do you have to include in the conclusion? In a nutshell, one, what did you contribute in terms of theory and practice? What did you contribute? What's your added value? Do not repeat the abstract, do not repeat the results, and do not repeat the findings, do not repeat the literature review. Just say, what's the conclusion? What did you conclude from the study? What's the added value of your paper? What, as I said, theoretical and practical contributions you've added, and provide a clear scientific justification for the work, and recommend, because we said research is a cycle, recommend future research for other authors to continue after you. The reference list, we can write it according to the referencing style that's demanded by the journal, APA or MLA. As we can see in the slide, that Word, Microsoft Word provides us with a way to include referencing, so it helps. There are other websites, Son of Citation Machine, for example, stylewizard.com. All of these websites help, but my advice is that follow the APA 7th edition. We are now with the APA in the 7th edition, the American Psychological Association Guide for Referencing. We are in the 7th edition, download it from the internet, it's downloadable, and follow it. It will, avoid mistakes with the referencing list. Avoid as well citing the same source. Avoid lots of self-citing for those who have already published papers. And do not inflate the paper with references. Just use them when you are borrowing information from other sources. Some journals would as well, when you are submitting your paper, they would demand a cover letter. What's a cover letter? A cover letter, it's like a resume, it's like a CV, where you convince the editorial board of your work, of your original ideas, of why they should accept your manuscript. The last point of our session today is to take a quick look at the process of reviewing and editing by journals. So how it's done? First, the author, and here, of course, some people would be scared to contribute with other authors with the same paper. On the contrary, the more authors, the better. The more authors, the better. The more creativity, the more good ideas, the more beautiful results, and so on. So the author or authors might submit a paper to the journal. Okay. The editor would check whether this paper meets the basic requirements, and then he or she would assign reviewers. Now, pay attention. These reviewers, they do not get paid, okay? This is, a job that they would like to do because they are in the field. So there's no financial benefit behind that for the reviewers. They would give you their comments and their feedback like this, like without any من دون مجاملة يعني. So the decision would be either to accept the paper with minor modifications, or accept the paper with major modifications, or reject it totally. They would say, this paper is rejected, please do not resubmit again, or accept. Now, some people would get demotivated if they get the acceptance with major revision. That's the most common answer by journals, by the way, especially the high impact journals. So it's okay if you are, no, it's not okay. It's very good if you get accepted with major revision. And it's even better if you get accepted with minor revision. Now, the full acceptance, very rare. You're very lucky if you get that. And that means your paper is really, 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 really exceptional without any form of mistakes. And rejection as well is common. And when your paper is rejected, just, you know, say, fine, it's okay. It happens with everyone. Let me take this paper and resubmit it to another journal. What do reviewers look at when we submit papers? They look at originality. The idea behind the paper is to be original, to provide new insights, to give new solutions to existing problems or to new problems. To share, knowledge, some kind of knowledge. So they would look at this, at originality, at how you relate it to existing literature and to what extent your literature is up to date, your methodology. And we asked Dr. Rami Ayubi, who visited us from Cardiff Met a few years ago and who delivered a workshop on research. We asked him this question. We said, what methodology do you recommend? And he said, a combination. So try as much as you can to go for new methodologies. For example, using focus group with interviews, or using firstly interviews and then doing questionnaires. Combining qualitative with quantitative. It would be good. A combination of many methods, or just look at what methods are really, hot right now. For example, structural equation modeling, SEM. It's pretty hot these days, and it's being done or used by many authors, so it's good. Just look as well. The reviewers at the results, at the implications, and at the quality of communication, writing and wording, and so on. I would like to finish my session with some ethical considerations. Ethics has been very important, especially after World War II, the experiments the Nazis did and Nuremberg law. It's very important to be ethical with our research. It's very important as well, a consideration for journals. In ethics, the most common mistake is plagiarism or copying pasting material from the internet. It's, for example, working with participants without their disclosure, or using animals without as well taking any form of harmless procedures. Not taking the consent from the university to which you belong to or of the participants as well. Failure to represent data or inflating your data. Falsification of data as well. These are all ethical considerations, and they might lead to major problems. And of course, they might be the biggest pitfall of your career. So avoid all of these ethical problems. Thank you so much for your time, for listening, for your patience. We can start the Q&A session right now.
Thank you, Dr. Latifa. Thank you so much. So, Zabadik, I can help you with the questions and answers, unless you can see them. So we have Hiba Asi. She's asking, can't we use a survey? In this way, we can take numbers and establish a data collection. But I don't know.
I didn't quite understand the question.
أكيد كان بكونتكست معين كنت عم تحكي فيه، سو هلا مش كتير بقى واضح.
Okay, I can see it now. Can't we use a survey? In this way, we can take numbers and establish the. Yeah, as I said, Hiba, surveys are mostly used when you're doing a deductive approach, where you have theories, when there are other models and theories about your topic. So it would be easy to construct your survey based on these theories. Another way to construct your survey is to use an already used survey by other authors. who tackled the same topic. You can use that, it's fine. And you can cite this author. So you say the survey by Kaza and Kaza has been adopted in this research. And I wish we had more time to talk as well about reliability and validity, which are two main aspects with questionnaires.
Okay, there are some people who asked questions in the chat, so I'll jump there and then get back to the Q&A. Jawad Badruddin is asking, what's the difference between a problem and a gap?
Okay, a research problem is a question or a problem that you want to answer in your paper. So for example, as I said, in an organization, you might observe that people are down, people are demotivated. So you would say, what factors affect employee motivation in this organization? This is a perfect example of a research question. Now, if this question was answered by other authors in the same circumstances, that means, why are you doing it? The answer is already found. You might need a gap. So you might need, for example, to reformulate the same question, that is, what factors affect employee motivation. You might want to test a new theory or find other variables. You might want to look at the effect of monetary rewards, for example, on employee motivation. So a gap بالعربي هو شيء ما كتير نحكى عنه بالليتراتشر، أو نحكى عنه بالليتراتشر بس ما نحكى عنه بلبنان مثلا، أو آراء متضاربة لأوثرز عملوا نفس التوبيك بس طلعوا كل واحد بأوبينيون مختلفة. هيدي بتعطينا تشانس وبتعطينا justification لنحكي عن الموضوع، فمنسميها جاب مختلفة كليا عن البروبلم اللي عم نحكي عنه.
Okay. Batul is asking, what about a disclaimer? Is it necessary to put it?
What type of disclaimer? To whom? يعني لأي party? Who will disclaim?
Okay, so we'll wait for her to...
No, we need more clarification. What does she mean by a disclaimer?
Okay. Sorry, راح أطشيك ثانية بس to all students who are asking if you can have access to this session, yes, you can. It's recorded, and we will make sure to send it to you on your emails, MUBS emails, very soon. Okay. Okay. Nadine Abdel Khali is asking, when can we figure if it's a deductive or an inductive
yeah, as I said,
research.
Deductive is when we originate from a theory. Inductive is when we do not have an already established theory and we are exploring something new. We're doing an exploratory study. If you're doing a causal study, that means the relationship has been talked about before, and that's deductive. Inductive is most common in exploratory studies, where we start with data, with observations, and we try to come up with our own model or theory. I hope I answered that, Nadine. We can talk about that more in class, yeah, Nadine.
Okay, so now we go back to the Q&A. Hiba Ase, I asked when the doctor was talking about the questionnaire, I wanted to stress on the reliability of the surveys. Thank you, doctor. So I guess you answered her question.
Okay, Hiba, thank you for your question, really, because reliability as well is indispensable when we want to make a questionnaire, when we are designing a questionnaire. Let me first clarify what the reliability means. Reliability means the consistency of the results. خليني أشبهها بالميزان, ميزان الوزن. For example, if I weigh 60 kilos and I go on the weight right now, it gives 60 kilos. That means this tool that I used is valid. It represents the real value of the variable I'm talking about, اللي هي الويت بهالحالة. أما reliability, it means if I go on this weight scale and it gives me 60 kilos and 5 seconds later, I go on the weight scale and it gives me 70 kilos, that doesn't mean I gained 10 kilos in 6 seconds. It means really the scale that we are using, it's not reliable and it's not consistent with the result whenever we replicate it or do it again. So a tool, in this case, the questionnaire, should be both reliable, consistent, and valid, which means it represents the real value of the variable under study. And for reliability, that's why I said we can use questionnaires that have been used by other authors who did the same topic. ليه؟ لأنه these authors who use these surveys, they've talked surely in their papers about the reliability and the validity. And there is a statistical test of the reliability. We can test it numerically. Reliability can be tested numerically by Cronbach alpha value. Whenever the Cronbach alpha value is above 0.7 or sometimes 0.6, it means the scale I'm using, it's reliable and it's fine. However, هبة أنت تتسهل عليك since you are a student مثلا أو حدا أول مرة بيعمل research, it's very common إنك تستعملي questionnaire already استعملت من قبل وعلى نفس الموضوع تبعيتك مثلا بس بغير بلد لنقول أو بغير setting عم تدرس نفس الفاريبل. هاي أهم شيء. فيك ترجعي تستعمليها وبتقولي بالميثودولوجي إن you are using a survey by هيدا الauthor. You can adapt it to your study. وهيك بتكوني خلصتي من مشاكل reliability والvalidity. إذا statistically منك قادرة تعملي. But definitely يعني في اليوم كتير أشخاص بيساعدون للي حابين يعملوا research بيكونوا ملمين بالstatistics. بس مثل دكتور رامي داو اللي بكرة إن شاء الله حيكون معنا بالworkshop حيحكي عن هول الاثنين. Wait for him tomorrow. He will tackle this, the measurement of reliability and validity on SPSS.
Okay, so Mazen Nasser is asking, does a student willing to do a PhD at a university has the opportunity to choose the topic of the research? Is it true that it should stimulate the supervisor's interest? And what are the opportunities that an MUBS student that MUBS provides for graduates if they are willing to do a PhD?
Like Dr. Rival, you can answer this question, I think.
Good question. Regarding the second one, the opportunities that MUBS provides financial aid to students, إنه فينا ندرس هذا الوضع يعني until now it did not happen بس أكيد it's not limited يعني ما في شيء بنقول عليه إنه it does not happen. So yes, we can study this opportunity. Why not? Regarding the first question, Dr. Latifa, please answer it.
With my students, I mean, بالعكس, I prefer that they talk about something of their choice, really. لأنه it would be more interesting for them. If I choose a topic for them, it might not be interested. I can guide them, though, into formulating a better research question or research problem or a methodology, a certain methodology. But yeah, they can do of their choice as long as it's compatible with our rules.
Okay, the summary of literature review should be showed in the publication. This is Marwa.
The summary of the literature review? In your publication, again, depending on the guide for authors, they would tell you, for example, how many words they want the literature review to be. So you write your own literature review and then you modify it as per the guide for authors. So yeah, definitely you have to include your literature review either as a part of your introduction or as a separate section.
Is there a minimum literature count to review and refer to, Nasim?
Is there, sorry,
a minimum literature count to review and refer to?
Again, it depends whether you're doing a master's thesis or a dissertation or a research paper. It really depends.
Okay. Okay, Anas is asking something. I guess you already answered, but in all cases, can a good research depend only on qualitative or only on a quantitative data collection?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, Rida is asking, does every research need a hypothesis?
No. I mean, and qualitative, why do we need a hypothesis? And qualitative, we have a question and we want to explore. It's exploratory. So no, not in every research we need hypotheses. Interviews are not done to test hypotheses. Questionnaires are done to test hypotheses, unless the interview is quantified. So no, not in every research you need hypotheses. Hypotheses are formulated based on a theory. If you do not have a theory, how can you formulate a hypothesis? وصلت الفكرة؟
Yes, أنا من جهتي yes.
Maybe كمان هلا دكتور رافي بكونوا هلا لأنه على الكواليتيف يمكن يسألوا نفس السؤال I think هلا.
Okay.
Maybe Dr. Rafi can answer this question هلا in his session.
Yes, why not? So I'll keep it pending كمان. صراحة ما كتير بقى معنا وقت بس
دكتور ريبال خليهم يكونوا بعد آخر سؤالين وبننتقل للبانلست الثاني عم نمر.
Okay, so Miss Mariam Fadil is asking, isn't questionnaire outdated in the age of big data?
Hi, Mariam.
Okay.
This is a very good question. The topic of big data, yeah. I believe that we will still be using questionnaires, yeah, Mariam. In business, it's a common tool. It's a common tool. Not everything. The big data has many ethical considerations. Until we resolve these ethical considerations related to the big data, then نستغني عن the questionnaires. But for the meantime, you are still publishing papers with questionnaires.
Okay. She asked 3 questions, بس تنعطي مجال لغيرنا. رح نشوف سمر بوزين الدين. Concerning literature review, to what extent can it be limited and updated in relation to the topic? Okay, I guess it's not clear. يمكن؟
بس خلينا هاي سمر لأنه كمان بعرفها. هاي سمر. Let me tell you, أول شيء, the main objective of reviewing literature is to know more about your variables. Okay, so if you can do that in one page, fine. If you can do that in 10 pages, fine. Again, when you want to publish, you follow the guide of authors. But in general, a literature review is where you define your variables and you look at past research, what relationships they came up with that you can rely on to formulate your hypothesis. بس هذه هي الهدف من literature review. If we make it too long, sometimes we get out of topic. If we make it too long, sometimes we get out of topic. So it should be limited, yes, to the variables under study. And if the variables are not clear in the literature review, we explore those variables. So بيكون الهدف تبع literature review is to explore those variables يلي هن ما مبينين معنا كانوا قبل.
Okay, so the last question will be for Hassan Turkiye. He's asking, when collecting data these days, using the online methods, how much the information is true? How do we consider that it's true?
Maybe I forgot to mention that, but yeah, the online world gave us a big opportunity and a big access to data. Yeah. مريم hinted at the big data كمان. اليوم عم نحكي عن analytics at all levels. عم نحكي عن analytics at all levels. عم نحكي عن Google Forms يلي بيعمل لحاله analysis. So ما بحاجة الأوثر يلي وزع الكوشنير هو يعمل analysis. Google Form بيعمل لك الanalysis. So but it's a paradox. يعني it's a sword with 2 edges. It can be positive and it can be negative. Some data on the internet is mistrusted and other data is trusted. We keep on the safe side. In the literature review using online data, we stick to peer-reviewed journals and to websites ending with .edu and .gov. As well, as I said, governmental reports or organizational reports or educational institutions. and databases such as EBSCOhost and Scholar Google. During the methodology section, yes, now during the COVID-19, the most common way of collecting data is online, using, as I said, Google Forms or other websites. There are plenty of websites that we can use to collect data. Now, talking about the quality of data that we are collecting. After we collect data, we filter it. Yani we do not use it as is, we filter it, okay? We filter data. Some answers which are extreme, because some people would answer extremely negative or positive. So we try to, this is what we call data cleaning, really. So we clean data firstly before doing anything else to ensure that the answers we got from people are useful to our study. And finally, I would like to say to the person who asked this question that you cannot have full control over the data you get. That's why we say always in the conclusion part of the papers that future research is always required and that research never ends. And that even Stephen Hawking, the great scientist and the infamous person that we are all fond of, was wrong at the end, and he confessed that in 2004. So we do not have and we cannot have full control over data, and that's why we should make research as a cycle. And I say that unfortunately in our Arab countries, research is still very limited, and it's almost, it's almost non-existential, and we have to make a change about that. We have to start somewhere and continue doing research, of course, with the support of our educational institutions and universities.
Thank you, Dr. Latifa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was very beneficial. We enjoyed.
Yeah. So anybody who's interested in the presentation, I can send him the.
Yes, please. I wanted to ask you. Yes, I wanted to ask you if we can have access to the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, I will. I can share it as well. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If you have a question, please email me at alati@mubs.edu.lb. I can answer their queries. Thank you so much for your time.
I will type your. Can you type it in the chat box?
Yalla, okay.
Okay. Okay, it would be better.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ribar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ati. Okay, so هلا رح ننتقل مع دكتور رافي دربارتانيان. He's a former faculty member at MUBS, affiliated with Cardiff Met. He received his PhD degree in 2021 from the Lebanese University. Dr. Rafi was invited to a presentation at the 5th World Research Summit in Orlando, USA, and he had done several workshops related to research methods. His research interest includes qualitative and quantitative data analysis, modeling, economics, management, and tourism. So, تفضل Dr. Rafi, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone. Inshallah عم تقشعوني.
Hi, Dr. Rafi. Yes, we can see you. عم نقشعك منيح.
Okay. عندي good morning. So good morning or good evening everyone.
Yes, Dr. Rafi is in the USA now, in California. So good morning, Dr. Rafi. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Today, as we all know, that I will speak about qualitative data analysis. I will try to make it short, and everyone that has any question, he can ask me in the end or drop me an email. So before starting the presentation, I need to do a small poll just to know a few things about the participants. So I will share a link in the chat box. Please go for it and click it and try to answer the question. Okay.
Dr. Rafi, some are saying that they are unable to click.
Okay, let them refresh it or try to use another browser. Okay, that's great. So we have, still people are filling. Okay, so around 50% of our participants are MBA students. We have 16% instructors, 8% BA students, 8% researchers, and 16% others. Okay, that's great. So the second question,
Those who are unable to answer, it's not a problem.
yeah, we're just collecting general data. Please click again and answer also the question. On the same link. Okay, that's great. We have 52% of the participants doesn't know anything about the qualitative data analysis, which is great. That's why we're here, by the way, and good for the other 50% too. Okay, so this is the last question. Also, please click on their link and okay. So now we have a clear idea about our participants. First of all, thank you, Dr. Azouri, Dr. Latifa, and Dr. Ribal for hosting me in this workshop. As you all know, MUBS was, I was part of MUBS family, and it's an honor for me. I'm Rafi Dervartanyan, and today we will talk about qualitative analysis techniques. The agenda of the presentation, I'll start with the research variables. We will talk a little bit about the variables, then we will talk about the research sample, then we will talk quantitative versus qualitative research approaches. Dr. Rami will explain about the quantitative. I will just go on the qualitative. Then the collection methods, I will talk about the interviews. There are other collection methods. However, I chose interviews, which is the most common one. Then we will talk about softwares for qualitative data treatment, qualitative data analysis, the conclusion, and the references. From my experience with students and with scholars, usually what we realize that the qualitative analysis is usually done by researchers or students in a way that they do the interview and they explain it without using any software or type of consistent analysis tool to analyze this data. So today I will highlight. I will do a highlight on these softwares, and we will talk about how we can visualize qualitative data, and what are some benefits of doing qualitative research. However, before talking about any research, the two main things that a researcher or a student must specify are the research variables and the research sample. And I support Dr. Latifa by saying that when you do a pure qualitative research, you don't need to have a hypothesis. You might have, but it's not an obligatory thing. However, you must know your variables. That's the most important thing. You must know your variables. So, talking about variables, there are a lot of variables, a lot of variables. However, I will pinpoint on four main variables, which are the independent variable, which is the variable that causes change in another variable. The dependent variable is the variable that is influenced by one or more independent variable. The extraneous variable is the variable that competes with the independent variable to explain the dependent variable. And we have the mediating variable that is the variable that facilitates the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. To put it into an example, a simple example, if we take smoking, let's say, and we deduce that smoking causes lung cancer, okay? And there is the variable of tissue damage and the variable of pollution, okay? So if we wanna specify what is the independent variable in this relation, the independent variable will be smoking, because it is the variable that is causing a change, which is having lung cancer, and it is the dependent variable. However, the mediating variable would be the tissue damage, since smoking will damage our tissues, and then we will have lung cancer. And an extraneous variable might be pollution, because not only smoking causes lung cancer, maybe also pollution will cause lung cancer. So to have an idea about these variables and how to think about them, this example might explain it more. Now, if anyone has an additional question on the variables, I can ask them. I can answer them in the Q&A session. Now, the sample. The second thing a researcher or a student must specify when doing a qualitative analysis, it's the sample. Okay, so the sampling, first of all, you have a population, which is the full elements or the people. So if we say population, maybe we can talk about Lebanon and the people living in Lebanon, or we can talk about MUBS students, or we can talk about people living in Hamra, or this will be the total population of a specific field study. Okay. The sample will be a part or a selected part of this population. The sampling process is selecting the elements of people from the population. So the sample is the part, okay, from this population, and the sampling process would be the selection of this people or elements from the population. The most important thing when we do a qualitative analysis is to have a representative sample. And it is attained by perfectly selecting a sample that represents the population. So if we're doing a study, on Lebanese politics, let's say, choosing from each sect, let's say, one person that represents the sect would be a representative sample for the population in a qualitative research, not quantitative. So that's why we choose one person from each sect to make an interview, or 2-3 people from each sect, or to make a focus group. Okay? Now, we have two main types of sampling method. We have the random and non-random. Usually, while doing qualitative analysis, we use the non-random. The random has 4 types. It's the simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster random sampling, and systematic sampling. Dr. Rami will talk about these random sampling methods in the upcoming session. Now I will explain more about the non-random sampling method, which is the first one is convenience sampling, people that are readily available. An example for this would be you go to the mall, and the person that any person that you meet in the mall, you just go and do an interview or start asking him questions. This is one of the non-random sampling methods. The other one is quota sampling. It's identify the quotas for individual groups and selecting the people. This would be an example in a company in a specific period of time. The HR will do a job hiring process and select specific people for job interviews to hire them. The purpose of sampling is to specify the characteristics of a population interested and locate individuals. An example for this might be to go knock on doors and try to ask non-working moms, try to do an interview for non-working moms, for example. This might be an example. And the snowball sampling, each research participant is asked to identify another potential research participant. A good example for this type of sampling might be, let's say, people that have special needs like autism or any other type of special needs. They will lead you, if you're doing study on them, they will lead you to the next participant, and it's like a snowball. Like it will roll until you have the needed participants for your study. So before doing any research, either qualitative or quantitative, the researcher or the student must specify these two elements of the research. Moving now to the research approaches. As we know, we have the quantitative and we have the qualitative. And based on the session that we had, using both quantitative and qualitative and the researcher observation, it will form a triangulation method. Today, we will talk about the qualitative, which is a non-numeric data. Unlike the quantitative, which is a numeric data, in qualitative research, you will have words, images, videos, audios. In quantitative, you will have numbers, graphs, and statistics. For qualitative, you can use interviews, you can use focus group questionnaire surveys. For quantitative, you can use questionnaire surveys. In qualitative, you need additional level and confirmation of research. In quantitative, complete analysis of research, it's attained. For qualitative, results are pictures, interviews, statements, written records. The data collection results are these. However, in quantitative are ratings, scores, numbers, times, number of times, and etc. This is the main difference between the qualitative and the quantitative approach of research. Now, if you want to do data collection for a qualitative method, one of the most common used element, research survey element, because any type of data collection method tool is called survey. It can be a questionnaire, it can be an interview, or focus group. So I will talk about interviews in this session, and the interviews are commonly, you can see them on TVs when there is an interviewer and interviewee. Now, this is not only used for journalism purposes, it can be also used for academic purposes. The interviewer usually the researcher is the interviewer, and the interviewee is the participant who is being interviewed. It can be face-to-face, over the phone, or the internet. Now, in 2020-21, after the pandemic hit the world, the internet, the Zoom, and other video conferencing tools are the most common tools to do interviews. There are two types of interviews. There is the asynchronous, which is the interviewer and the interviewee are not online at the same time. Usually it's structured interview process. In this case, the researcher or the interviewer prepares the questions, and the interviewee will pass through a process. He will have the question, and he will have 1 minute or 1 minute and a half, or maybe more, to answer the question. If the students or our participants had done IELTS or any test or TOEFL, usually a person can ask you a question and you need to reflect on the question for 1 or 1.5 minutes. It's the same in this case. However, the interviewer is a researcher, is an academic. It's for academic purposes, not for testing abilities. For synchronous, it's done when there is an interaction between the interviewer and the interviewee in a real time. The strengths of interview, the tool of interview: first, it allows probing and pausing. It gives in-depth information of the interviewee, gets information related to the stance and perspective of participants, exact information needed by a researcher, useful for exploration. Now, usually when we do an interview, the questions of the interview are open-ended and not close-ended, unlike the questionnaire or the e-questionnaire. So the researcher can elaborate more and try to understand more the point of view or the stance of the interviewee, and can get to the perspective and the attitude of the interviewee regarding the topic that he or she are trying to research. On the other hand, you have the weaknesses of the interviews. It's expensive because you need to go get in your car, go do the interview live, or you need to maybe travel to meet someone and do an interview. So this is before COVID, of course. So it's usually expensive. It's time consuming because doing an interview may take hours. It can take 2 hours or 3 hours based on the amount of data you're trying to collect and based on the number of participants you're trying to get. It's reactive. Sometimes the interviewee answers questions that are desired by the society rather than his or her personal opinion about a subject. Sometimes it will be misrepresented data, bias. If the interviewer is unskilled, he won't know how to represent the data, or he will be biased, meaning that he will include his or her own opinion in the interview. Data analysis for the qualitative data is time consuming, and in the upcoming slides we will see why it is time consuming. Okay, so after we did know how data collection of qualitative data can be done, now we will talk about softwares that we can use to analyze qualitative data. Usually in Lebanon, these softwares are not all these softwares are not readily available for free, and in Lebanon, students usually do content analysis, which is you do your interview, you get the answers for the interview, and then you place the questions and the answers in the appendices, and you do a content analysis. The content analysis is something that it is reliable. However, for a junior researcher or a student, it's better to use a software in order to analyze qualitative data, because being biased or handling data in an incorrect way, the risk of being biased or handling data in an incorrect way is very high. You need to be you need to have a good experience in qualitative data so that you would be able to do content analysis. In this slide, I have placed all the softwares that you can download. Some of them are for free. And I can assure you that these softwares have tutorials on YouTube, or there are some softwares that have tutorials on the website itself. So personally, I have used two softwares for my research. One is Envivo, and the second one is called Atlas T. Amex QDA is a good one also. Didus also is a good one, and the other ones you can check them. These softwares, I will share the presentation with Dr. Ribal after the session, so that you will get access to the websites placed on this presentation, and you can go and check the softwares readily available for qualitative analysis, and maybe you can use one in your research. So I will talk about Atlas T and Envivo because I have a personal experience with these two softwares. Atlas T is a powerful workbench for qualitative analysis of large bodies of text, graphics, audio, or video data. You can analyze any type of these data on Atlas T. It is a tool that helps you arrange, reassemble, and manage your material in a creative yet systematic way. So if you have, for example, a text, when you did an interview, you have the questions and you have the answers for the questions. So you will record these interviews, and then go and type them and type the question and the answer for the question. So the text that you will get, you can use it further in Atlas T. You can place it and start coding it. I will show you how, and you can get the results in something called the code co-occurrence table. Also, I will show you these in the upcoming slides. This is Atlas T, by the way. As you can see, the program has projects, so you can have many projects. You can insert documents, quotations, the codes here for each document or image or video, some memos for you or for the research. You can do analysis, and there are other tools you can use for Atlas T. The second software that I have used also is called Envivo. it's very simple. It's simpler than Atlas C, but it's more expensive and manages qualitative data from different sources. So you can import any type of data to NVivo. It could be Word, it could be Excel, it could be survey, any type of survey. And moving to big data, is one branch of deep learning. So if we want to talk about deep learning, under it you will have the big data, you will have the data analysis, data science, all these. When we were talking about, Miriam had raised the issue of big data and social media. As you can see, the data collected from the social media is a qualitative data, because it's a text. And someone is liking a post, or someone is commenting on a post, or someone is placing a post on the internet. So or YouTube, it's a video, or Facebook, it's an image. So NVivo, they are working on developing a tool to do deep learning. For a junior researcher, or an MBA student, or even a PhD student, these are not required to know. You just need to know how to analyze an interview, or a focus group interviews, and then you will go after that. If you would like to continue your career path or research path in these kind of analysis or deep learning, then you must know about how big data is analyzed using qualitative analysis techniques. This is NVivo. This is how it looked like. Here, as you can see, the section where it's called Barbara. These are the questions and the answers of Barbara. And you can see next to this, you have the coding. So you can say that after reading the 3 lines, you can say that this 3 lines reflect the specific code. So if you would ask me, then how you will code these, these texts, it's directly related to your variables. That's why I told you in the beginning, you need, after doing your literature review and talking with your professor or talking with your colleagues about a specific topic, you need to make sure that you selected the correct, efficient and effective variables for your research. If the variables that you chose they don't reflect your research, you would be in trouble. So choosing your variables from the get-go is very important for you in order to be able to do either qualitative or quantitative data analysis. So in this case, the coding is directly related to the variables that you have selected in the research that you are trying to do. Now, after collecting the data, how to analyze this data and to show it in your research. So there are 4 types of data analysis and data analysis, and how to show or reflect your data for a qualitative analysis technique you can use in the research. First is the narrative technique. It's a storytelling style. It's like you ask someone, how was your day today? Of course, you won't ask this question. However, I'm just giving an example. If you ask someone, how was your day today? He can start speaking for an hour and explain what he did all day and what he felt or what he saw. So this is a narrative way of data collection. Usually it's used when a topic is not well known in the research or in the in the scholar world, it's a way for people to reflect in an open-ended session on a specific topic. Let's say we will take, for instance, we will talk about, we can talk about, let's say AI, artificial intelligence. So you go and select a person that had a good 2-3 years of experience in AI, and you tell him to talk about his experience in a narrative way. Okay? It offers a distinctive way of talking readers, users through research interpretation. So the reader or the user will do a research interpretation on the narrative. There are two types of ordering: time-based ordering and theme-based ordering. So it's either time framed from one period of time to another, just for you to understand how things have changed. For example, we talk about, let's say we go to Google and we do an interview with the HR, and we try and we let him explain to us how was the hiring process 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and now, and how they had an evolution in that. So he will start talking about it related to a time frame. Team-based is the example that I gave earlier, which is the AI. It's a team, it's an artificial intelligence, something new. So that a researcher can understand what is an AI and try to reflect on it, he goes and does the narrative reflection. This is an example of the narrative qualitative analysis. The second one is systematic or ranked network display. In this type of qualitative analysis, there are concepts, code, and category to make sense of data collection. Conceptual hierarchy of codes representing finer and finer shades of the meaning. I will show you an example so that you understand what I'm talking about. The result can be displayed as a graphical display. As you can see, you have a text here. After reading the text, you put the main ideas of the text and on the right, it's on the left hand side. You place the main topics of the text, and then on the right hand side you put the reflection of these topics. If you want me to elaborate more on how to connect these with the variables, so usually what we can do is on the left hand side you will have the dependent variable said in a paraphrased way, and the keywords that reflect the dependent variable would be on the left hand side, and on the right hand side we would have keywords or ideas that are reflecting the independent variables in our research. This is the second type. The third type is called the mixed display, matrix displays, sorry. This is a flexible method for displaying qualitative data and interpretations in row and columns in a tabular format. Efficient approach to presenting a relatively large volume of information in a meaningful way. The rows and columns arrange permits the identification of at least 2 key variables. If you can see in this image, this is extracted from Atlas T, by the way. You can see innovation versus innovation. It's this keyword is told for 66 times, and it will be 0. It won't show any relation because it's the same. However, let's select, for example, innovation with teamwork. So as you can see in this qualitative study, after doing the interview with the specific people and doing the coding based on the variables that you had, you can see that the path coefficient between innovation and teamwork is 0.6. So the PAT coefficient ranges between 0 and 1. Anything greater than 0.5 as a PAT coefficient will show very high relation between these two keywords. So if you want me to explain more on this, let's say that we are testing, our research question is how to boost innovation in XYZ company, let's say. So the hypothesis one or variable one, however you want to call it, is that teamwork will affect positively and significantly on innovation in XYZ company. If this is the hypothesis and we get this table, then by using qualitative data analysis, Atlas T, and using matrix form, we can prove that our hypothesis or the variable relation that we did is 100% correct in a very scientific way. Imagine these softwares help you to transform your qualitative data to quantitative data, which is a great tool to use. And the last tool to use in qualitative analysis is called cognitive concepts or cognitive or concept maps. In this tool, it's the most sophisticated tool, by the way. A person's representation of concept or a process about a particular domain, showing relationships, flows, and dynamics among them. Analysis of in-depth qualitative interviews or forms of collaboration between the researcher and the participant. If you want me to show you an example, I will show you an example. This might be an example of I know it's complicated a little bit. You can do it on when you have time. So this tool, the cognitive concept maps, you can do it for a PhD or a further degree or a further research done. However, for a master's degree, enough for if you're using qualitative data analysis, the code co-occurrence table or the matrix form or the other two forms are enough. These are examples of the cognitive concept maps. So the conclusion. In conclusion, qualitative data, the software support system, first will let you import various types of qualitative data files, text, PDF, images, videos, audio, and multimedia files. It will show you, or you will be able to code these various types of qualitative data files in various types of files. You will be able to manage, edit, rearrange your evolving code system. You would know how to conduct various kinds of researchers and how to produce various types of data displays. After doing the data display, you can export it to various outputs like Excel, like Word, and place it in your thesis or research paper or article. Also, you need to keep in mind, most qualitative data analysis are not governed by highly constructive rules. You need to pay attention on each step you're taking. It's not like the quantitative. There is a specific guideline that you follow and you will reach the final point. Data analysis and data display will often feed off each other as you move through your analysis to the writing stage. So in this place, usually it's different than the quantitative analysis, because in the quantitative analysis, you do the data analysis and then you display the data. However, in this case, it's a back and forth process that you will go through. you can look back to the data analysis and the coding you had done in order to you can read the text and reread the text so that you can highlight or show some misunderstanding or misinformation or miscoding that you have done. So it's a back and forth process, and devotes more time than the quantitative data analysis, of course, because it's text. It's a text, and you need more time to analyze it. So the time and volume of the qualitative data decide whether to use software or not. In this sentence, what I mean that one interview, having one interview will not be enough for you to use a software to analyze a qualitative data. You need to have more than one interview in your research, so that you would be able to use a software to analyze the qualitative data. For references, the book that I used to get the methodology and the data for this presentation is called Surviving and Thriving in Postgraduate Research. It's written in 2019. This is a general book you can use for social research methods. It's a great book done by Newman. To do systematic or hierarchical network display, you can use this tutorial. For code co-occurrence analysis in Atlas T, you can use this link to get the tutorial. For concept maps, this tutorial is recommended also to do a concept map. And Vivo tutorial, you can find them on this website. Thank you so much. And now I'm ready for any question.
Thank you, Dr. Rafi. Thank you very much. We have Rima Boughanam, who raised her hand. So Rima, do you have a question? Can you hear me? Dr. Rafi, can you hear me? Can someone hear me?
Yeah. Dr. Ribal, can you take the question from the Q&A section?
Yes, but there are no questions for Dr. Rafi. Khulud Nassar بالأول, she raised her hand, so I asked her to ask her question in the Q&A box, but she did not answer me. And now, okay, so I believe there are no questions for you, Dr. Rafi. It was very clear.
Thank you. So, thank you.
Nadine عبد الخالق, Samar, okay, لحظة. Nadine عبد الخالق, يمكن she has a question?
Hello, doctor. Actually, it's the first time I'm doing a research. So we will go through your presentation, and we may send you questions through email if you can provide it to us, because of course we are not used to these tools that you already provided to us.
Yes, of course. I will share my email. I will share my email with you.
In the chat box, Dr. Rafi, please, if you can do that.
And who might help us in doing the steps of the qualitative analysis research?
So so let me tell you something honestly. How I learned
it's not easy يعني from you يعني just it's the first time we are I'm hearing it. I'm telling about myself. So actually we need help يعني it will not be easy. Am I right?
Ms. Nadine, are you an MBA student?
Yes, actually.
Okay, so Akid, Dr. Rafi and Dr. Latifa will provide the help you need. And eventually you'll have a supervisor who will be guiding you in every step of your graduate research. Okay, so don't worry at all. And if you have any questions.
No, Dr. Latifa, she's doing, she's checking our research. The qualitative steps, we don't know them. Yani. We need to prepare it. We need to know how to prepare it, actually.
Dr. Rafi, will you be able to provide the help?
Yeah, first of all, the references, as you can see, the references will guide you through each, I place the references for each type of qualitative data analysis. Maybe it's new, I agree with you. But I agree also with Dr. Ribal that the supervisor will guide you in a general way. And then it's the researcher's efforts. Yani the researcher must go and you will find a lot of reliable data on YouTube, tutorials on YouTube, and you will find also on the particular software you've chosen to do the qualitative analysis, you will find tutorials and books. If you go to the library that MUBS has, or any other library, if we have other participants from other universities, you will find books related to Envivo, you will find books related to Atlas T, you can find books.
And I have another question.
Yes.
Which method we will choose, qualitative or quantitative?
It's totally related to the topic that you are trying to study. It's totally related to that. It's totally related to what you agreed with your supervisor. This presentation, I did this presentation just...
Actually, it's very helpful, Yani. Actually, we are very thankful for you and for your efforts. And it's better maybe to share this with us, because we will go along with each information you provided to us.
Definitely. And in case you chose to do a qualitative research, then you can go and visit these websites and dig deeper in how to do the qualitative analysis.
Okay, doctor. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Samar Buzainuddin, you have a question? Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I did. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm really honored. I'm really impressed by the presentations we have been today. Really, I'm thankful. I'm grateful. Thank you for the richness of your presentation. But I wanted to ask the same question. If it is possible to share with us the presentation, and in case if I have any question, I can go back to you.
Yeah, definitely. I will send it to Dr. Ribal, definitely. And I will place now, let me place my email in the chat box. Okay, so where is the chat box? Oh, here we go.
You can't see it?
No, I can.
Okay.
Okay,
so Samar and everyone, this session is recorded. So once available, we will be sending you the recorded session, and the PowerPoints of Dr. Rafi and Dr. Latifa will definitely be sent to your emails.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, doctor. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, Ms. Mariam is asking, is any of the softwares you mentioned designed to do prediction, Dr. Rafi?
Yeah.
Do they utilize AI to analyze the intentions of the interviewee?
Yes. Envivo and WordStat, these two softwares, now they are using partial AI, not full AI. So they are constructing type of algorithms. When they see repetitive words, they can suggest or they can forecast some of the codes. So what I mean by this, there is nothing to be done automated by these softwares. it's when you put the text, okay, the researcher must feed the codes to the text. However, this software is using some type of algorithm that will suggest for you specific codes or specific keywords to be used for the coding process done for the entire text. On the other hand, when inserting an image in Atlas T for a person, there is a type of software in an algorithm in Atlas T that gives you the general overview of this image, yeah, by recognizing the face, or by recognizing the landscape, or recognizing it can recognize if there is a sea, if there is a landscape, or a person in the image. However, it's not fully automated yet. As for what I know, they are trying to incorporate more algorithms. However, it's partial till this day. So it's based on the researcher and the assessment of the researcher more.
Okay. Can any of the mentioned software analyze recorded interviews from a database?
Okay, so how you do that? You can place the audio file. So if you record an interview, you can place the audio file in the software, and rather than typing the question and the answers, you just code the minutes. So let's say, let me give you an example so that you understand. If I have an interview for half an hour, okay, I place the audio file in the software, okay, then while I'm hearing the recorded interview, I tell the software, let's say from the duration 1 minute and 5 seconds till 1 minute and 12 seconds, the code was innovation, let's say. And then I mentioned from 3 minutes 2 seconds to 3 minutes 5 seconds, it's teamwork, let's say. So that's how you can code also a recorded interview without typing it into the and enter it as a text into the software.
Okay, so I believe those are the questions we have. Thank you very much, everyone. Dr. Rafi, please, if you can stop sharing your screen. Thank you all for being with us today. I'd like to thank, first of all, Dr. Hatem Aleme and Dr. Nael Aleme for giving us this opportunity at MUBS, the opportunity of having you among us and of giving you this very, very important workshop. Then I'd like to thank Dr. Andre Azouri, Dean of ISB, for giving me this opportunity. And finally, thank you very much to Dr. Latifa Atiye and Dr. Rafi. Your presence was very valuable, and everything you shared with us, your information, was very, very important. So thanks a lot. And thank you for all attendees. Please don't forget, tomorrow we have at 6 another workshop with Dr. Rami Daw. He will be tackling the quantitative method. Okay, so thank you very much and have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.